days of work to be done out in the fields under the sun. Who could it be to pick the last one, to pick the last one?
My last album, it's my 6th studio album, is called The Queen Between. And there were several influences. Mostly there was a very big research that myself and my husband Sam Mills have been doing in India and Pakistan over the last 10 years, which is we did a lot of work with different communities, but particularly on this album there was a Rajasthani community in India. But also one very, very big influence was going to Pakistan, because we had a commission from the British Council to develop a project over a 2-year time span with some musicians from Pakistan, and then bring that back to London to present that show. So we went to work with very, very great Sufi. Sufi is like kind of Islamic mystic singing, a special kind of singing from Pakistan. And we were very fortunate to work with the top people. And so that was over 2 years, so I also learned a little bit of this music as well, so that was a really big thing. But the third influence, well, actually the first influence really, because actually all of the songwriting comes from a book which was written by somebody called Sir James George Fraser, who is a writer at the end of the 19th century. And he wrote a book which is a very heavy, weighty book called The Golden Bough. And it's a study of magic and religion, and he speaks about a lot of different societies. And he says that like all societies, they have a very common poetic language at their foundation, which is a magical foundation. He makes a case by presenting a lot of evidence. So this book, it's a strange, I mean, I came across this book and later actually found out that so many people were influenced by this book, like from as diverse as T.S. Eliot and Jim Morrison as well. Jim Morrison was very heavily into the Golden Bough. And I think, you know, it's somehow, he manages, Fraser in this book manages to create some kind of, you know, something which is really fueling the imagination, but not making too many analysis. Because I think when you have academic books, they really tell you what you should think, but he leaves it quite open. So that's why I think poets really seem to like all the imagery and things which come from this book. It's stimulating. So all of the songs are actually based on this book. And they're all inspired by this book. So that's one of the big influences as well. Well, I personally, I mean, I'm not very keen on categories at all. So, you know, I don't know if one could exist without categories. Well, I mean, fusion seems to sort of, it seems to imply, you know, like, oh, I'm making an experiment and I'm putting this and this together. But for me, it's quite natural because, you know, I grew up like with rock. You know, you know, like I had a covers band when I was 17, and I was singing Jimi Hendrix and Doors songs like when I was 16, and so it was very natural. And then also the Indian thing was also very natural for me. So it was very natural for me to go back to India and I started spending time in India. So no, I wouldn't say it's a fusion. I mean, I think if you had to call it something, maybe something like a kind of a diasporic post-rock might be more appropriate. Yeah, so yeah, no fusion is the answer. Okay. Well, I kind of think that I think that, you know, like culture is like all its ideas, and it's like, you know, like, I mean, collectively we sort of believe in something, and I think it's propagated through like our collective sort of recognition and our history, you know, which is written, and then, you know, people absorb this history and then think of it as real. So it's like really propagated through humans. Like I think great people create great art, which becomes culture. But you know, at the end of the day, things, they're not, on one level things are real, but on another level things aren't real, you know, like a metaphysical level, things aren't real. So, and the album plays with like a lot of these ideas as well, actually. Like the idea of liminality, which is, you know, a kind of state which you achieve, which is like through ritual, you know. So ritual is a very interesting part of culture, isn't it? Like, because all societies have ritual. But the idea of liminality is very common. Yeah. But history and culture is great, you know, and great respect for people who accomplish things, you know, like say for example the Qawwali singing tradition is 750 years old, so that's a great thing. Or European society and architecture is a really great accomplishment. So it's beautiful, but you can look at it in different levels and interesting angles. Yeah, okay, so Queen Between is really this idea of liminality. So it's like a state which is, because I like music, I am very drawn to music which has a very great psychic kind of intensity. And I love artists who have a kind of psychic intensity. It means they're like really kind of channeling something, or they're taking you somewhere. Like say, like for example, Ian Curtis from Joy Division, who I'm really kind of listening to a lot at the moment. So Queen Between is kind of, you know, it's about the state, it's liminal state, you know, so a state which is, you know, like say for example in ritual you go to the state and say on one level we're living this normal reality and we're functioning and doing our things, but we're also existing on that another plane as well, which is more liminal plane. So the idea of Queen Between is something which is between fantasy and reality. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, thank you.